if you don't ask for what you need, you're not going to get it. And so what happens is people assume or have an expectation that like their significant other should just know. They should just know. They should see the world the same way as I do. Like, here I am. You should just love me the way that I want to be loved. But they forget that like they don't know.
Hey guys, welcome to our SoulFam Podcast, where I interview space holders from all over the world. I'm your host, my name is Karolina, and I am the connection catalyst. I help spiritual entrepreneurs experience deeper connection with themselves, with others, and with the universe. Today on the show, we have Tye Hunter, the therapist, hypnotherapist, and a coach. Welcome to the show, Tye. How are you doing?
Yay! I'm doing wonderful, Karolina. Thank you so much for asking.
I
I'm
love
here
your
with you.
enthusiasm.
It couldn't be better.
I'm super enthusiastic as well. I can feel your enthusiasm and your joy and your excitement for this chat. And I am excited as well because we really set an intention that this conversation is going to be free flow and, without the themes, maybe just more or less based on our professions, of course. But like, it's really good to set this intention because if you said before we started recording that you're a little bit of a perfectionist, then, it's actually really good to let go of the whole control and just let
So
the
true.
conversation go wherever it goes. So I'm really curious where it's gonna bring us today. Where this
I
conversation is
totally
gonna bring
agree.
us.
Yes.
But one of the really questions that are very important for me to ask at the beginning of the free flow is your journey, because I'm really curious how people
Mm,
have started to be in this self-help, healing, personal development areas, because for everyone is a very different story, and there is always the
yes.
intention behind, there is always inspiration why people found themselves on this path. So I would love to start with a little bit of a backstory of yours.
Yes. Um, so if I may, because the reason why I came into being a healer, a therapist, a hypnotherapist, um, and I've never shared this publicly. So is that okay if I share?
Of course, everything is okay. This is an authentic podcast.
Okay, good. So my story that I've told myself, like my narrative throughout life has always been like, I don't belong, I'm not accepted. And I have sort of this perpetual fear of rejection. Okay. So I grew up in a really big family, and there were 7 of us and 5 kids. And there's 2 brothers, 2 sisters, and I'm number 4. And I always felt that I didn't belong. Like I was kind of awkward and quirky and a little bit weird. And in my family, I always felt like I was the odd one out. Like my sisters hung out together and my brothers hung out together. And so that feeling was always there. And at school, it was the same thing. So awkward, nerdy, like just sort of like just a nerdy little girl, right? And I remember, and this is sort of what kind of shaped my life. There's a lot of events, obviously, that shape your life. But I remember when I was 8 years old, I there was this real, and we all have these, right? There's this really popular girl at my school, and I'm not popular. Remember this. And she's super popular. She's like a couple years older, and she had invited me to her birthday party. And as you can imagine, that was like huge, right? So, so I was super excited. I like went. This is my day. I'm gonna be popular. Like this is gonna happen for me. And I rushed home, and I like told my mom, and I knew that I had to bring like a really good expensive gift. I had to like dress to the nines. Like this was my day. I'm gonna finally be popular. And in my house, gifts, like expensive gifts, were not a thing. Like you put it on a list, like it's your birthday or Christmas. And even if like your birthday was like a year out, you would actually like, it's too bad. Like you got to wait for your birthday, even if the thing's not even important or popular anymore, right? So that was not a thing. You didn't get expensive gifts, but I remember I had to get like an expensive Barbie, or I had to get an expensive gift for this girl because I have a lot to prove here. I got to have the fancy wrapping. And so I remember my mom saying, like, it's not like, you don't even know this girl. Like, we're going to go spend $50 on this Barbie or whatever it was. And It was a Barbie, but I don't remember the price, but I remember it was expensive. And my mom said, okay. I said, I'll give up my birthday gift. I don't care. I won't ask for anything for my birthday. This is like the most exciting thing. And so we got so we got the Barbie and we wrapped it, and it was super beautiful wrap, and like I had a dress on, and my hair, she curled my hair. My mom curled my hair. And the birthday was at a park, and it was like a couple blocks away. So I didn't want my mom to drop me off. Like I was going to ride my pink bike, and I was going to be a big girl, and I was going to go because they can't see my mom with me. And I went to the park, and there was no one there. So the girls weren't there. I know it's like super sad, right? They weren't there. And you know, when you like have this I mean, we talk about the universe, this knowingness. I knew that it wasn't that I had the wrong day, that it wasn't that the time was wrong or the wrong park. I knew that I had been like a joke. Like I was duped, I was pranked. But the topper and the saddest part of all of it is that I was so insignificant and so small and so much of an afterthought for them that they didn't even like show up to laugh. Like they didn't even, right? They didn't even show up and think that it was funny or anything. And so because I didn't belong in my family and I already felt like I don't have this acceptance, I sat in the park. Like I literally sat in the park for hours. I didn't cry. I buried the Barbie. And I'm positive that I buried like my heart with that Barbie. I know. And it was so humiliating for me that I couldn't even bear to go home and like tell my brothers and sisters and my mom that I'm this big loser. And so I remember like literally making things up in my head and just making these things up. Like, when I got to the party, like everybody celebrated me. And like I was, everyone knew my name and they loved my dress and she loved her gift, just so I could go home and say those things and never tell anyone that this had happened. And that taught me to keep people at arm's distance. And it taught me to like fear being rejected. And it became the narrative of my life, like this aloneness, this separateness. And when I realized that was like, if I could empower others to have the courage to show up and be accepted and put themselves out there and like empower people to love themselves and know that they belong and that they're not alone, I knew that I could make an impact. And that would be my gift to the world and my mission and my purpose to the world, was this courage, not only to know that you can show up, but this courage to know that you can show up as you, your authentic self, that there doesn't have to be a story or pretending or mask. And that's how that led me down that road of like becoming a healer and somebody who is very passionate about knowing and allowing people to know that they're not alone. That's like a huge thing for me. So that's kind of a long story, but it's very much shaped who I am. If you can't
Mm.
tell.
That's
So
really, really nice. Thank you so much for sharing that. Seriously, like I'm all in the story. Like I'm there, when you're telling the story. I'm like really feeling, yeah. And I feel how sad for an 8-year-old it would be to just be in this kind of situation. And I feel like if we do this work on ourselves, when we go back to childhood traumas and resolve it there and understand what happened to make us feel like that, we can really understand also children that, for a child, the reality is completely different than for an adult, right? We think differently, we
yes.
feel different, and it's such a massive impact such a situation can have on a kid. And I feel like actually it's so nice that you're sharing all that. I have a few questions to you based on this story.
Yeah,
Like, first of all, typology.
absolutely.
Do you know maybe Enneagram personality typology?
I've heard of it, but I've never actually explored what mine is.
And would you perceive yourself to be artistic or like creative or like
Yeah,
sensitive?
for sure. Yeah. Oh God,
Mm-hmm,
girl.
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah,
Sensitivity.
because
It's like I used to see it as a bad thing, but now I'm like, it's my superpower. It has to be because it's such a thing for me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, just because like I'm really into this typology of personality, and people who listen to my podcast, they probably already know that because I'm like super passionate about it. And from your
Oh,
story, it sounds like you have a personality of an artist, because for an artist the biggest belief that they need to go through is I don't belong. And it's
mm,
pretty interesting how you're telling the story, and how I recently have been kind of like dating the artist as well, this kind of personality, and learning how these personalities play out. Because for me the trauma is the opposite, so I need connection. So for me the safety is the connection, and for an artist the
yes.
safety is aloneness, right?
Alone.
So it's
Yes.
like the opposite
Very much.
thing. So that's why, like, of course I get triggered because we have the opposite trauma. So you need space and I need connection, and that like is a big disaster, right? But then like we are triggering the fuck out of each other, and then we just like resolve it, and then we heal, and it's beautiful and so on. But you know, like I'm just really it's true. But recently I've been really just
It's great.
exploring this personality, because like really, for some people, even you know other situations that might have caused this kind of pattern. It's like, for example, if a kid moves from one school to the other, or one country to the
Mm,
other, and you know he doesn't
yes.
speak, or she doesn't speak the language, and then it's like a big trauma of like I don't belong, I don't even understand what these people talk to me about. Or simply if someone is bullied as a kid, then this belief of
Yes.
separation, of like not belonging, is formed.
Yes.
And this is such a big basis of this kind of personality. And I'm only understanding when I'm working with artistic people, sensitive people, how they are actually, you know, reacting, why it is safer for them to be disconnected from everyone. Because if everyone was
Oh,
so
yeah.
unsafe in their life, then how can they feel safe connecting? But that's usually why they attract me into their life, because I'm super connected, I'm super like into connection, you know, and I just really want them to feel
Yes.
connected and feel belonging, like we're gonna be friends forever, because I'm a loyalist
Yes.
personality type. So it's like,
Yes.
yay, let's be friends forever, let's just trust each other. But yeah, sometimes
Yes.
it just doesn't work, because then these kind of personalities actually, like, because they are so in their own world, because they spend most of the times like just being in their own world, and they forget to
Yes.
text me for a week or two or a month or two, and then I'm like, come on, you don't love me anymore, like I need quality time, you know. And then again we have a big disaster. But you know, usually when you understand yourself and you have awareness about your triggers and what heals you, then it can be very much resolved. But it's pretty interesting, because like you said this story, and like the artist has wings of observer and achiever. And so within an artist,
Mm,
there is always like a trait of neighboring personality. And so the observer usually likes to be prepared for everything. It's a very logical
yes.
personality, like this or that, this or that.
Yes.
And you were saying the story how you want to prepare everything, this is going to be like that and that. And the achiever, on the other hand, is the part that says, okay, I need to feel enough, I need to achieve, I need to achieve approval, I need to be perceived good by everyone. So then when you were creating the
Yes.
story, okay, I'm going to tell them the story that everyone was happy about me coming there and whatever. This is like the achiever
Yes.
taste, you know. So from the story, that's why I'm
Yes.
asking, like, if you know this personality type, because based on the story that you told me, I already feel like, oh, maybe it's a artist with a wing of a little bit of achiever, a little bit of observer.
Yeah,
And
I
you
would
know,
say so.
based on that, that's why I'm asking you, are you super empathetic, are you super sensitive, are you, you know, very
Yes.
deeply in your
Yes.
emotions? Because this is what the artists do. And I've been really
Yes.
exploring this personality, because seriously, it's probably such an opposite personality to mine that it triggers me the most of probably all of them. And there are only
Yes.
9.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
but I'm the opposite. I'm like, let's connect, let's connect, let's connect. And they're like, I need space. I'm like, oh my God, no, my abandonment wound is triggered now, you know? And
Yes.
it's just
Yes.
like,
With freedom, freedom, no.
exactly. It's like, oh no, I'm
Must
I'm
feel
escaping from
safe.
that. Exactly. But
Yes.
that's why we need to find
Yes.
the perfect balance. Like, I mean, I need to
Yeah.
also accept when someone needs space and be okay with that. And I'm really
Yes.
like, you know, coming
Yeah.
more and more, the more traumas I go through, the more emotional releases because someone is disconnecting from me I go through, the easier for me is to accept it. And I feel like, on the other hand, the artists, let's say, or other personalities that are more in this anxious attachment style, when it's like unsafe to be with people, they need to also bring
Yeah.
more safety into the connection, and then we can meet in the middle. Like, I can be more accepting of this,
Yes.
they can be more accepting that I need connection. But usually, you know, what pisses me off the most is that when I'm with this kind of person, and my ex-partner was also like that, that if he needed space, there is no way that he's gonna fill my cup with what I need before he gets his
Right.
space, you
Right.
know?
That's
And
a
for
good
me, it's just
awareness.
so
Yeah.
frustrating because it's like,
Yes.
there's no way my need is going to be met unless his need is met first, because he cannot give to me
Right.
what I need. He cannot connect to
Right.
me before he actually takes space and feels safe within himself and connects to himself, because usually like these kind of sensitive personalities need also space to even figure out what's their core, what's their need, what's their desire, because they can be very affected by other people because they're so sensitive, right? So
Yes.
then they need space to
Yes.
cut off from everyone and be like, okay, so now I know what I need because now no one is influencing me with their energy. And so, but for me, it's like so frustrating that like I always have to be the one to put my needs like on the side because this other person literally cannot meet it, before they are
Yes.
actually
Yes.
filled up themselves. Do
Yeah.
you feel like that's true
Yes.
for you as
Yeah.
well?
I can very much be disconnected. I do tend to um I have to remind myself that I'm safe the majority of the time because I will naturally sort of think into the future of like, is this person really here for me? Does this person really love me? Do they love me for me? And it's not necessary every time, but there is something to be said about the people that are in my life. They've spent a lot of time with me. And so that's really important because I need to see that they're sticking around. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like easier for me because I will keep people at an arm's distance at first. And that can be healthy and natural. But there also is the unhealthy aspect of it where I can isolate, I can not talk about my problems, I can feel like I'm not safe to talk about my feelings. And like you said, the needs being met, a lot of that is also feeling, I know with my upbringing, like it's not okay to ask. It's not okay to ask for help. It's not okay to voice what I need. It's not like things in my house were swept under the rug or swept under the rug. And so that feeling of like I need to take space, yes, but it's not always totally healthy. Like it's not always like so what you're doing but if you feel like you're being forced to talk about your needs or your feelings, yes, there's definitely an aspect of like, okay, whoa, I like now I feel scared and I just have this feeling that you're not gonna still want me and now I'm gonna reject you before you reject me. So there's
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of layers and strategies and whatever it is, and at the end of the day it's everybody does what they do to keep themselves alive and keep safe, and we had these adaptive behaviors as children that are now destructive in adulthood. So it's like that worked when I was young and it kept me safe, but now it's destructive because maybe I destroy a relationship because I'm not speaking or I'm not voicing how I feel about this person. And I think that the huge thing for you and your partner or who you're dating is that you're aware of it so that you can say, hey, I really need to feel connected. It's a thing for me. I don't know what's going on. Are you okay? Just let me know you're okay. And like, how much space do you need? It's one of those where you're just very communicative and it's such a practice, isn't it? Like, it's like,
It is.
you're just constantly practicing. Like, I have to speak up for myself. I have to tell them that this is what I need. And then I have to listen to what they need. So if they need space, I'm going to take a step back, even though I'm dying because I want to connect with you. But I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to allow that person to be them and I'm going to be me. And it's sort of that like constant practice of reminding yourself that you're safe, you're heard, you're loved, you're seen. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I well done, because that's really where the work is that's the only way that we can, because we don't see, right, we see life differently, and so you have to do the practice. We're never going to
Mm-hmm.
see life the same. And if you want this beautiful relationship, you just have to be willing to put yourself out there, be vulnerable, and communicate what it is
Mm-hmm.
that you want and need. And also see if they can even deliver. Like sometimes I know that I have to say to people, sometimes I have some anxieties. It has nothing to do with you, but that means I need to remove myself and get myself back into a grounded state and feel rooted. Again, it's not personal, but it's embarrassing sometimes to have to say that. But I know in order for that person to not get sensitive and feel like I'm rejecting them, I have to do it. And so it's great that you guys have these conversations. I think that's wonderful.
I mean, like I'm all about self awareness and I'm all about personality types, and I know exactly how they work and what kind of traumas they bring up. So for me, it's like, it's very simple actually. As you say, communication is the key here because, and it doesn't have to be only with personality 6 and 4. It could be with any, let's say, introverted versus extroverted personality or
Yeah.
avoidant versus anxious attachment style. It's always
Yeah.
the same. But for me, for example, if someone tells me, hey, I love you and I really want to connect with you, but right now I'm not able to. I need 3 days on my own to come back to myself. And after that, I'm super looking forward to connecting with you. Then I'm fine. But the worst thing happens
Yes.
is when there's already trigger and then it's like, bang, disconnection, no word,
Yeah.
nothing. And it's like, what the hell just happened? We just
Yeah.
were so
And that's
connected. And then it's like,
scary.
poof,
Yeah. That's scary for
that's
anyone
really
though.
bad.
Like you can be in any kind of attachment style. And if someone goes silent, we immediately feel fear because we're not safe. Like it's just like, oh my gosh, that person's abandoning me. I'm not safe. Like, I don't know what's happening. So the communicate, especially when you're new, you really have to do a lot of communication. I think once you start to get into the flow and you trust that person, they've spent time with you, then you understand, okay, this is their thing. I got it. So
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
think that's the big difference. It's like people have to communicate these things in the very beginning and almost communicate them at nauseum. Like they have to actually like speak up over and over and over again. But it's just simply to get to a place where at some point you get it, you understand them, they understand you, you're used to their patterns, and now you guys are in a state of like trust and like belief in the love for each other. So I love that. Yeah.
Absolutely. But do you feel like, okay, maybe let me ask in different way. How did you get from being so afraid of rejection and, so feeling so unsafe to now, I assume, being more willing to connect, even from your vibe, and your openness to connect with me? I can feel like, okay, you're there, you're out
Yes.
there, not hidden, behind the walls anymore. You're
Yes.
actually like out there.
Yes.
So how did you overcome the fear of rejection? And what would you say to people who maybe haven't done it yet?
I think fear of rejection is quite normal. And I think that what healed me was first and foremost, I mean, was seeing the the reality of the situation. So when you start to see what was happening in your childhood, like that was really powerless and that was really hard. But I thought there's something wrong with me. But when you go back and look at the scene or you look at the what's happening there, is you understand like there's nothing wrong with me, right? At the end of the day, maybe there's something wrong with that girl. That's messed up. Like that's not that has nothing to do with me. She didn't. It's not about me. This has nothing to do with me. And so you start to process that first and foremost. I'm going to forgive myself for being so hard on myself for so long for something that was beyond my control. That's first. So there's that self forgiveness piece, right? The second is kind of like getting in tune with really sort of allowing yourself to know that you can connect with others and their stories are probably similar. Like knowing that you're not alone. Like a lot of people feel separate. A lot of people feel alone, but there's something in society that says like don't talk about that stuff. Don't talk about your shadow. Don't talk about sadness. We just got to be happy all the time. Buy this, do this, get this. You're going to be enough. Don't ever reveal it. And I think the more that I started to go, I have sad days, yeah. And they're normal. They're like there's the most natural thing in the world, but because we don't talk about it, we continually feel alone and separate. And so really getting vulnerable with people, telling them my weaknesses, letting people know that you know what, I have dark days for no reason at all. Just cuz I don't know why, but they're there and not being ashamed or living in the dark of like, okay, I'm just going to keep this to myself because now I feel like no one understands me, no one loves me, no one's right. And we can do that. But when you actually get brave and you have the courage to speak out and say, hey, you may not accept me, because let's be clear, like not everyone's going to accept you, not everyone's going to love you, not everyone, you're going to get rejected. That's a given. But it's sort of having that courage to finally go, hey, I like you and I want to spend more time with you. And I'm putting myself out there and it's really hard because it's really scary because you could say, nah, right? But just kind of knowing that, like, if that person does reject you, you're still safe, you're okay, and perhaps that's the way it's supposed to be. So people will say like God's rejection is God's redirection, which I
Mm-hmm.
love, because if I get rejected, then it's like, okay, like maybe that person's not for me. Why do I want to be with somebody who doesn't appreciate me, love me anyway? As opposed to just keeping myself segregated and never talking about these things, or never being real or vulnerable or saying these things that actually connect us. And unfortunately in society is sort of like, don't talk about these like vulnerability, ooh, like don't do that. And so kind of getting into that heart space of like, I'm going to open up and hope that you're going to love me. And if you don't, I'm going to accept it. I'm going to be okay with it. I'm going to know that it's just God's redirecting me to someone else or something bigger, something better for my life. That's how I deal with it. But don't get it wrong. I definitely, I definitely have my moments where I'm like, I have to remind myself, like, it's okay. Not everyone's going to love you. You can be rejected and you're still going to be okay. Because it's still scary. It's like telling that story or free flowing where I'm like, oh my gosh, I should be so prepared and have everything sound really smart and good enough and better, be the best and all that. And that alone is helpful in my journey to go, you know what? This is how you do your podcast. I love it. I'm going to actually dive in and I'm going to do it anyway, even though it's totally scary for me to just talk and not have a preparation. It's really good for me. So those kinds of things, like getting uncomfortable and seeing that you've survived. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
big deal.
Yes, absolutely. I resonate with so much with everything that you're saying because even if you are rejected, then and even if you feel the fear of rejection, and even if you feel then the sadness that you were rejected, you still can alchemize the sadness and like let yourself feel it to the fullest, because then when you can really feel it to the fullest and then maybe even go back to the first time that you felt this way and resolve the childhood trauma that made you feel sad about rejection,
Sure.
then it's like another layer of an onion peeled off of you, and you can heal both ways. You can heal through experiencing the trauma, or you can heal through experiencing the opposite, right? So if you are rejected and you actually feel sad because you're rejected or whatever, disappointed and so on, you can actually go there, and then the next time it's going to happen, you're not going to have as much emotional charge behind this fact that someone have rejected you. And if you
Yeah.
can experience the good things, then you can put yourself out there, and then actually the person can accept you, can love you, can not reject you, and then you're going to actually heal through experiencing the good thing, the connection, the love, the
Oh, I love
approval, and so on. So I feel like in any way you're going to help yourself, because if you put yourself out there, it can go both ways, but both ways can be helpful for you, either to connect with this person or to experience healing through this connection and through, letting yourself feel all these shitty feelings as well, because like without
Yeah,
letting them out of our body, they will never shift. So of course it would be
that's
easier
so
if you
true.
could just adopt a belief, okay, the universe has everything best for me, it's not meant for me if this person rejects me, and so on. But sometimes we still might have some childhood traumas that tell us, oh no, it's so scary that I cannot handle this. And then we just need to
Yes.
dive there, and we just need to accept this, because, especially that for an artist, these kind of personalities, the authenticity is actually one of the biggest essence, like speaking up for yourself, expressing yourself, and so
Yes.
on. And it's funny because, like, usually they don't feel understood, but usually they also don't speak. So it's kind of like, okay, I'm not understood, but you don't say anything. How can you be
Right,
understood?
completely. You're 100% right. No, I know. Yeah. It's not, and again, like you were saying, it's not logical. Like that's not a logical conclusion, but it's what you're saying. It's the processing of the feelings first and foremost. I love that. That's really what therapy is about. What hypnotherapy is about is really getting in there and like allowing yourself to feel the feelings and just get the stuck energy out and move forward. So I love that very, very much. Yeah.
Mm. And do you feel like in your type of hypnotherapy that you're using, RTT and so on, because like I've heard my mom was kind of like questioning today. She was like, and my friend told me that you don't actually have to go to your childhood traumas, because some traumas are in your adulthood and then you need to deal with them. And I'm like, I'm thinking, okay, yes, I've had clients where I had to deal with the trauma, for example, when someone found their parent, hanging and committing suicide, or something that was like really emotionally like meaningful in the adulthood. But still the core of the trauma, like the grief, the loss, the sadness, was in childhood anyway. So we needed to resolve kind
Yeah.
of both of of these situations, so the childhood one and the further one. So my question is, like, do you feel like we always need to go back to childhood to resolve the core issue? And also, is it necessary to go to through adult traumas every time, or is it just sometimes when the emotional charge is very, very big behind the event that happened?
Yes, I love that's a great question. I think absolutely you always go back to the childhood, always. The RTG hypnotherapy regresses you back. So you regress back to your childhood. You understand. So when someone comes in and goes, I have a limiting belief, I believe I don't belong, I have a fear of rejection, I'm not enough. There's a majority of I'm not enough. You want to have them go back and understand where it started. Because what happens is what we call an imprint. And so that gets imprinted. There's a big event. So, like for me, that birthday party, when I realized, like, I'm not loved, I'm not accepted, I'm a joke, I'm insignificant. These beliefs start. And what happens is you find that imprint. So that's when it starts. I'm sure there's little events before that. I already felt like I didn't belong in my family, but that's a big, big imprint that's lasting and stays with me. And then the pattern starts to develop where you're proving yourself right over and over. I knew it. They don't love me. I'm not accepted. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. Because at the end of the day, like I said, when you're a child and you're trying to survive and you're trying to stay alive, it feels like life or death. And you have to then remind yourself, okay, I'm safe, I'm alive, so I'd rather just keep that story so that I'm alive. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So yeah, so when you're going back to the childhood to understand the root, the cause, the root, the reason for why there's a limiting belief. Like, why does this exist? Understanding it as a child and then going back and understanding it as an adult. Okay, obviously, as a child, I had no power. I had no power. I'm helpless. There's nothing I can do about it. As an adult, it's sort of empowering that person to go, okay, well, today, as an adult, I can handle that. If I go to, let's say, for my own example, I go to a party, no one's there. Like, okay, these people suck. Like, they're not nice. I don't want anything to do with them. Why do I even want to be part of that group? I'm good. And sort of dealing, like knowing that you have the power and the control to be able to deal with it, as opposed to when you're a child, right? Your child, when you're in trauma, you cannot deal with that. That's way too much information telling you that you're not safe and that you're not going to survive,
Hmm.
especially because it's wired. We are hardwired to want to be part of the tribe, right? Because
Hmm.
we are still in that primitive brain that needs to be part of the tribe to survive. So that's the difference. But yes, I definitely think always go back to the childhood.
Perfect. That's what I think as well. And there's a lot of people out there, lots of different therapists, psychologists that say different things. But I also found that it's required to go to childhood because it's like going to the roots of the problem. So then you kind of
Yes.
pull out the whole plant
Pull
with
out
the
the
roots,
weeds.
not just cutting the branches. That's how I see it anyway. Because like if you go
Yes.
only, okay, what happened yesterday with your husband and this and that, okay, but the root is there in the kindergarten.
Right.
So like it's
Right.
actually really
Right.
not helping that much if you don't go to what happened there. And it's so interesting because we create meaning. Like I feel like another kind of way
Yeah.
to handle this fear of rejection that we were talking about, another way is to kind of change the meaning of how it happens. Like as you say, one of the meaning changes could be like, okay, the universe has something better for me, maybe these people are not aligned for me. But like just the meaning of, like, for example, if at that point you could have a meaning that, okay, this girl is mean rather than
She's
I am not
horrible.
enough,
Yeah. That's it. Because it's
it
like
would be
I was
completely
thinking there's
different.
something wrong with me. Yeah.
Exactly, because children always take it personally because they don't understand. They don't
Right.
have this logical perspective that will tell them, okay, this is not like that because these are not actually the behaviors that people do. It's just you take everything like it's your fault. You are not enough. You should do better
Right.
or whatever. So then, if you could now, as an adult, if you have this kind of fear of rejection that you're working through, or any other emotion, really, if you can change the meaning behind what happens, your perspective can also shift, and the potential in your subconscious mind can open. Like, wow, maybe actually actually I'm not that not enough, or maybe actually it's not something wrong with me. And actually always our emotions are about us, and other people's emotions and how they behave, it's about them. So
Yes.
if you can just
Yeah.
take responsibility for how you feel, how you behave, and how you respond, then it's completely different than just like, oh my god, they don't like you, or they did this and that. Okay, it's theirs. If they are treating you shit, it's their problem because they are
Yes.
a little bit shitty people if they are treating you shit. I mean, I'm
And
just
it's
kidding,
funny,
of course,
yeah.
but like,
Yeah, but you can even have like the sympathy for her, like, what is going on there that she feels the need to like be mean to someone, right? Because happy people aren't mean to people. Happy people they don't have time to be mean. And so it's exactly that. It's like having compassion for not only the little girl that was me, having compassion on all sides. Like, what is going on where this girl has to impress her friends by being this brutal and this mean to another girl? So I love
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I feel like this work, like your work with the RTT or my work with completion process, because it's very similar. It's like you're going back to the first events, you're coming as an adult to the event as well, and you're meeting the child's needs and so on. It's very similar, and I feel like this also these processes help you understand it on a deep level. That even now, if in life someone triggers me, it's like, oh yeah, I know this is just their hurt inner child inside of them that now hurts me,
Oh
because
yeah.
it's not about
Yeah,
the
yeah,
adult
yeah.
just talking to me. It's just the part of them that was hurt before. So this work, when you
Mhm.
do it on your subconscious mind, it can really bring you this compassion and understanding and forgiveness, because you understand that, like, it's not, let's say my partner who is mean to me. It's actually the inner child that was hurt that is mean to me, and they don't know how to handle it. Because if
Totally.
he was in his adult conscious awareness, he would just do everything peacefully and with love, right? Or
Right, right.
whoever, like friend or parent or whatever. Like, I sometimes like to see parents also, or grandparents, as like little children, because that
Yeah.
helps to be more compassionate, because with them
Yes.
I think it's the hardest thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true though. And that's such, and again, I love the way that you're saying it, but also I love the fact that it is a practice because of, the defense mechanism. The first thing that you can do is actually go like, whoa, like that person, what the hell? But actually, you're right. If you do the work, you really do have this enormous compassion for others and love for others. And you can absolutely identify and see that, like, what is not being met here? What need is not being met? Why are you so angry? What's the trigger? What did I do that made you feel that way? Because it's not me. So let's talk about you. So I love that. That's really good. It's good that you have people in your life that also practice the work.
I mean, look, if they don't, then I make them. There's just no other way.
Seriously.
Either I make
No,
them or they just out of my life, because like if someone
or they're
doesn't work
not.
on
Yeah, that is
themselves,
true.
it's just like you
That is
cannot be on the
so
same
true.
level. You just
That's
cannot.
true.
You cannot. Either someone will
That is
start
so true.
understand that if I'm triggered, it's just my inner child, and if they are triggered, it's just their inner child. Like, unless we are on the same level of understanding, I mean, sure, I have some people that in my life from time to time that don't understand that. I mean, some family members, of course, they will never understand this perspective, and that's okay. But like most of the people that I'm actually choosing, to spend my time with, like, they need to know this, because I don't want to like. mm, be out of alignment so much. Because if people understand that, okay, we are human beings that are programmed in our subconscious mind, that it's not actually personally for me when you're mean to me, that it's not about this or that I understand, then you have such a depth of the connection, such a depth of vulnerability in your relationships, that I wouldn't exchange it for anything else. And it's not even about like, oh, you're not enough if you don't do shadow work, because you don't know how to do it. It's more like, I want to connect with you on a deep level, and if you cannot be
Yes.
authentic enough to go there into your vulnerability, into your true self, into your childhood trauma, into your just most real authentic self, then we're not going to connect on the same level that I would like to connect. Because like the authenticity, the truth is the most important thing, at least, or one of the most important things in relationships, where you can speak out,
Yes.
when you can be real. Because otherwise you're just attracting the mask. Like, you are putting the mask, and the people you attract to you, first of all, are attracted based on the mask that you put on, and second of all, they don't even know the real you. So I feel like if people don't do shadow
Yeah.
work, don't work on themselves, it's actually such a big misalignment that like,
Yeah.
even my mom was today like, I think that this feeling came from actually this trauma. I'm like, yay. Even my mom starts opening up to
That's
this stuff. Maybe I'm
amazing.
gonna
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's, like with family, it's like the I think the most challenging sometimes to show them things. But I'm just so happy that I have actually people who are open enough to just when I learned the completion process method, now all my friends, all my close friends use it as well, because they're like, oh my god, it changes life. Like, it takes all these filter of reality off, these shitty habits or behaviors or whatever beliefs. And so I feel like now it's rarely that I actually talk to someone who doesn't do shadow work.
Yes, yes, yes. So true. It is so
And if
true.
you're and if you're in a relationship, I feel like it's one of the most important things that you can actually do to
Yes.
understand the shadow and understand the subconscious mind. And like, so yeah, based on your experience as a hypnotherapist and doing RTT, what do you feel like are the most important things to remember or to have in mind when you're in a relationship and when you are in this like triggered situations where you're like, oh my god, like that something is boiling, it's gonna burst very soon.
Yes.
So so like, what are your tips
Yes.
to bring yourself back to align space and also to just understand each other in these like triggered states?
Yes, yeah. That's a good question. I think that the with relationships, and first of all, triggers are great. But people will be like, "What? What do you mean triggers are great?" Triggers are great because you
I'm
really
with you,
then
sister.
know, right? Like, you're like, "Oh, what's that about?"
I love
Like,
triggers.
why? What is happening here? Like, why am I feeling unheard, unseen? What's going on? So I think that triggers are really it's a big beautiful thing that happens, because then you can actually take some time and go, okay, what is it that's happening? Take some time away. So I think two things, I think, with relationships that I find incredibly important. One, like you just when you were saying about the artist, and speaking from my clients and my own experience, if you don't ask for what you need, you're not going to get it. And so what happens is people assume or have an expectation that, like, their significant other is just should just know. They should just know. They should see the world the same way as I do. Like, here I am. You should just love me the way that I want to be loved. But they forget that, like, they don't know. So you have to be brave and you have to ask for what you need, because no one can read your mind. And unless you're speaking up for what you need, you can't expect them to just deliver. And so when you start to feel like slighted, or you're like mad at them because they didn't notice something, or, it's just say, hey, I'm feeling hurt. I'm feeling hurt. You didn't notice this about, or like, we have this really special anniversary today and you didn't even say anything, or whatever the case may be, because so many times we get so self absorbed and so like in our own heads that we don't stop to think, like, maybe they're having like a really busy day. Maybe there's something going on with them that you need to check in. So it's like, what's going on with me? What's the trigger? Okay, great. I now know what needs not being met. I don't feel seen. I don't feel heard, whatever the case may be. But I'm also going to understand, like, I need to speak up for it. I need to ask. And I also need to see the whole picture. It's like the bigger, just get outside your head and get outside into the bigger picture. This person also has a life, has an inner dialogue, also is experiencing life, and they're not going to see it the same as you. So I would say that's the first. No one's going to see life the same as you until you allow them to see it through your eyes. And always put the shoe on the other foot, right? You always want to go, okay, how would they feel if, right? Another thing is, a big thing I think is that we tend to have projections. And so what we'll do is, we in relationship will tend to like dislike, say we dislike something about our partner. And so we're just judging and projecting and being critical, or whatever it is that you dislike. And what I found that when you are doing that, when you are criticizing or judging, you got to ask yourself, what is it that actually I'm not accepting within myself? And where's the judgment really for? Like, who is this really for? Because so many times, well, I remember I had this was a long time ago, but I had a significant other and he'd watch like TV for hours. And I remember thinking, like, he is so lazy. Like, ugh, what is he doing? I can't believe he does that. And meanwhile, I'm like on my phone for 4 hours, like totally judging him and like, like being like, he's so lazy. And ultimately, it was me feeling guilty about my own addictions to maybe TV or phone or whatever I'm doing that I feel badly about, or where I feel like I'm not achieving or I'm not productive. And once I could wrap my head around the fact that it has nothing to do with him, it has everything, because when you're judging something harshly, I promise you it's you judging yourself. Every single time when I judge someone, I can always flip it back and go like, what is it? What's really going on? Self-rejection. What's the rejection inside myself right now? And when I find it, it's actually quite laughable. And then you just allow them to be them. It's like, okay, I'm going to be on my phone for 4 hours doing nothing. And you just watch TV for 4 hours, because I'm not going to judge that. I'm going to allow you to be who you are. I'm not going to try and change you. I'm just going to be responsible, like you said, responsible for me, my feelings, and my own happiness. You would be responsible for your own happiness. I'll be responsible for mine. And let's complement each other, not complete each other. That's how I feel like is the best way to come. We're both responsible for our happiness. So if you're miserable, I'm not going to be miserable with you. That's not going to happen. And vice versa. I don't expect you to be in a bad mood because I'm in a bad mood. You do you, I'll do me, and let's communicate it. And we're just going to get through this life loving each other and accepting and allowing and surrendering and all the words that come with letting go.
Perfect.
That would be something that I think is dominant in relationships right now in my work.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing all that. I totally agree with everything, especially with this mirroring thing. Like, because when you judge something in someone, you actually judge yourself. So, if you can look within yourself, what is the problem? You're suddenly not having a problem with the other person. Suddenly, you're
That
accepting because you've
totally.
accepted it within yourself. And it's like, what the hell just happened? It was just me having resistance to me, not actually to the other person. So, I love everything that you shared about the projecting and also about like expressing, because, yeah, that's also I feel like such a big topic, communication in relationships, but people don't do that. And that reminded me of an exercise that I really like to do with my ex-partner and dear friend. We did every maybe half a year or so, or we tried to do it quite often, to write down one of my mentors, my number one mentor actually, Teal Swan. She had this video on YouTube about relationship advice or relationship something, and then she proposed this exercise to write down everything that you need in a relationship with this specific person, and then rate it from 0 to 10 when it comes to priority, like how important this need is.
Mm,
And on the other side, write all your desires and also rate it from 0 to 10 and like how important it is, because sometimes people don't know how important the need or the desire is. And it might turn out that, okay, if you, for example, I don't know, wash dishes after someone, it's not as important for them as saying I love you to them. And for the other person, it
right.
might be completely opposite. Yeah, acts of service might be the love language, not words of affirmation. So it could
Right.
be something different. So if you can actually have it sometimes even on a piece of paper and then talk to each other about this and express everything, then it's like, okay, now I'm clear about what you need and what you want. And sometimes it's like, whoa, actually, really? Like, this is what you need. And it could be very unexpected for us because we don't, as you say, we don't sit in the mind of the other person. We cannot expect this person to know how we are shaped, what are our traumas fully, how we are thinking, what do we need. So I loved everything that you shared because I feel like it's so valuable. And this exercise, it just came to me as like a little complementation of what you just said as well. Because I
Oh
feel
yeah, I
like it's
love that.
makes it so clear, like this is what I need, this is what I
Yes.
want, this is how important it is for me. Bang, it's clear.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I love that. Anytime you can write something out, like anytime that you can like journal and get it clear on paper, I find that actually is so helpful. So I think that exercise is wonderful. I've never heard of it, but I love it. So
I
I'm
really,
learning
really
something
recommend it. It makes things so much simpler,
new.
It's
Especially
easier
the
to
0 to
handle.
10. I love that.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, can you
till
let this one go? Like, are you cool with letting this one that's like at 1? Are you cool with letting that one go? So I love that.
yeah, exactly. And Teal Swan, who is my mentor, is a genius. So, like, I recommend her to everyone. She has so much content about relationships. If anyone wants to dive
Yes.
deeper, it's all on YouTube. So it's really really amazing. But for now, I have one last little question to you. If people really vibe with your energy, just like I do, and they would like to find you and see your content and check you out, what's the best way to contact you and to find you?
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. I am on Instagram at Tyler Hunter, but Tyler is Tyler. So Tyler Hunter is Tyler. and then Hunter. And then I'm at my website is tyehunter.com. So TYE Hunter.com. I know that people think Tye is without an E, but it is Tyler. Tyler. So Tye with an E, Ler. Those would be the two best places to find me and contact me. And I look forward, obviously, to vibing with whoever vibes with me, which is how it all works, right? We manifest each other, and it's a beautiful thing. I love that.
Thank you so, so much. I'm just feeling so excited, and I could even talk to you for a few hours more. I feel I have this feeling we could make it even longer, but unfortunately, it's getting late here. It's like 10 p.m. in Poland at the moment, so we
Yes,
gotta
no, I
go. But
understand.
I just loved our conversation so much, and thank you so much for the advice you have given and for your beautiful energy. It's been really a pleasure to talk to you.
Yes, same. Thank you very, very much, darling. It was beautiful, and I already learned all these things, and it was a gorgeous conversation. I'm so appreciative. Thank you so much.
Thank you.